And what matters more to me is kind of that expression, and I'm kind of indifferent to whether it's a masculine or feminine manifestation. I really want to leave my glasses on though. Fine. So, I'm wearing Lolita, and today we're going to talk about my journey into Lolita. And I also really want to spend some time touching on what my sort of experience has been getting into Lolita as somebody who does not call themselves a woman. I want to say preemptively, if you can hear my father playing bass, I hope you can still hear my voice, because I'm not going to ask him to stop, and I also want to film right this moment, because after today I don't have another day off of work for 4 days. Also, I'm still trying to figure out what to do about the background, because the thing is, now that I have a ring light, my face can be lit well, but then the background gets really dark, so I almost need to figure out a way to light the background before I worry about what to put in the background. But so, today I want to take you on a journey with me, which is my journey, to where I am today wearing this outfit, which I will show you a full body shot. But Lolita, I don't know how the YouTube algorithm threw me this bone, but in the middle of June, I ended up watching a video about Lolita, and I was very intrigued, and I ended up watching so many hours, like days worth of video about Lolita. So, if you're wondering what this thing is that I keep saying the name of, and does it have anything to do with that weird book about the little girl and the older man, it does not have anything to do with that. It is a Japanese street fashion that is all about the Rococo and Victorian eras, sort of modernized, because the skirts are a little shorter. We're not full floor length, even though we do cover our ankles. But this fashion emerged in Japan, in Harajuku, as a street style, and it's inspired by Marie Antoinette, as well as Victorian London. There are 3 main substyles: sweet, classic, and gothic. Sweet and gothic, I think, are pretty self-explanatory, but classic can be a little confusing. Classic is really about embracing the imagery that is maybe more native to Rococo or Victorian eras. So it's a lot more like floral or like unpatterned. That's how I would explain it. I still don't totally understand classic because sweet and gothic are so straightforward. Classic is the kind of unobvious one, I think. But so, I watched so many videos, most of them by Lovely Lore, and then I did eventually also get into Tyler on Scarving Scarves as well. And within like a couple of weeks of watching all these videos, I was like, I cannot live my life and be happy not being able to wear these things myself. I finally made my first purchase, which was from a Taobao reseller, or maybe just, sometimes I'm confused if some site is a Taobao reseller, or if they're basically like their own Taobao site, but that's actually available outside of China, so more of like an indie brand that does ship directly to international customers. Anyways, I finally bought my first dress because I found a set where I could put together basically an entire coordinate and not spend too much money. So I got a dress and a headpiece that matches the dress, and this blouse, actually, this black one with the big sleeves, for like $100-ish bucks. And that sort of just began my trip and fall from not only watching and consuming content to actually purchasing. And so the next thing I bought was shoes. They're also the shoes I have on, actually. They're the black ones I got, and those I got secondhand on Lace Market. And from there, you know, I tripped and fell onto Lolita Collective, where I ordered my first petticoat and some socks. Now I own like 8 dresses. I only own 3 blouses still because my 2 other orders for a couple of blouses are taking forever to show up. But yeah, I tripped and fell, and I am absolutely in love with Lolita. So now let's maybe rewind a little bit and get into the why and how that happened, especially considering who I am. Even though that first dress I bought was actually a new dress, a indie Taobao brand dress, I got a different dress first delivered to me because I bought it secondhand in the US, whereas that one was coming from China and being made new. And so the first coordinate I put together was this one here, which is with the Antique Cats Innocent World print, and then the only other Lolita element I think is the socks. And I did have a petticoat on though, but the petticoat was too long for the dress, and I had the petticoat pulled over my boobs, which like made the petticoat uneven, so it like poofed out more in the front, which was kind of gross. But the top I had on was just a shirt that I happened to have that was like collared and had a little bit of frills going on, but since it wasn't made to fit under a JSK, it looks a little awkward. And then I wore my Doc Marten Oxfords, which I think actually work really well as Lolita shoes for a slightly experimental look, but overall I would definitely categorize this first outfit as Ida. Even though I did pretty much hit all the elements, I also had something on my head, even though it was a kind of crappy hat that I already had, that I hadn't worn in years. But yeah, as soon as I put that on, even with how crappy it was, I was just so excited. I was like, oh my god, I am a new person. I am a person who is not tied to the gender roles and expectations of beauty of this century. I have released myself from my shackles. I was just so excited. Even though I really didn't love how the dress looked on me, like it had this weird bib thing on the top, and with my chest being on the larger side, I just didn't think it was that flattering. But even with that, I just felt so free. And that really, I think, helps us unravel why I am so drawn to and excited about and happy in Lolita, which is really that it's kind of a complete rejection of what modern femininity is supposed to be. It's kind of against multiple interpretations of femininity that exist in the modern day. Because there is like multiple interpretations of feminism that I think have different implications for how women and anybody really is allowed to embrace femininity. And I think one version of feminism that I'm not a huge fan of is one that encourages women to almost become more masculine in order to be perceived as having the positive traits that we have historically associated with masculinity. I don't like that. I think femininity should be elevated to be just as revered and respected as masculinity. You shouldn't have to shun femininity in any way, in any context. And as somebody who does not feel like a woman, I made this whole video of my like coming out story, and I talked about how I currently identify with the term agender because I don't feel particularly like a man or a woman or any other strong manifestation of a gender. But being in that non-binary umbrella makes it very complicated to figure out how you should express your gender, because non-binary is kind of about, well, I'm not a woman, so I probably shouldn't be feminine in the traditional sense, but I'm also not a man, so I'm not gonna just become totally masculine in a traditional sense. And for a long time, I struggled with the idea that since I am looking more like a woman, I had to present myself more masculine in order to seem legitimately agender. And I have decided to screw that, but there's still a lot of ways I think I can embrace some femininity without feeling like I am conforming to the expectations of a woman. And one of those is by choosing to wear alternative fashions where feminine and masculine have very different interpretations, and where I don't feel like I'm forcing myself to be sort of the 21st century adult woman. That is why I think these are the skirts and the dresses that I am happy and excited to wear, because femininity can be really fun and doesn't have to be synonymous with being a woman. Yeah. Another sort of like interpretation of being a woman that exists is like the very like openly sexual woman, because there's that history of women kind of having to suppress and hide their sexuality because it's like shameful or tempting to men or whatever. And I do really admire the ability women have now, especially in like the West or in the US to portray themselves as sexual beings without that being shameful or wrong. But that is also something I do not want to be a part of because of another part of my identity being demisexual, gray sexual, and not at all interested in having relations. I really like the more conservative nature of this without it being like boring or plain or like, I don't like the word prudish, but I like that this is like very outspoken and fun while also being quite unsexualized. But so, diving back into my outfits, the next Lolita outfit that I documented because I had a full coordinate was that very first dress I purchased arriving, and here it is in all of its star twinkle glory. I forgot what the print is called, I'll show it, but this one is also a very basic coordinate. I do have a matching headpiece this time, but I'm actually kind of torn on this headpiece, and that's the main reason I haven't actually worn this dress very much since I got it. In this outfit, was like, I am a work of art. I feel like a work of art. And I think that is another reason that I love this so much, is because I'm so interested in fashion that like speaks and that says so much more than I'm a business person or I had to put clothing on to go to Walmart or anything like that. And I think that the different imagery that you get going on in these dresses is just amazing because it like has a life of its own. It's very much like emotion and thought evoking in a way that I love clothing to be. And I think that is a good like segue to talk about why I'm leaning into a feminine fashion when I could be leaning into a masculine fashion and maybe making it a little bit easier to be like accepted and perceived as agender or just non-binary. And I think that is that it's so much harder for me to find like masculine styles that speak in a way that I like. I can't like think of anything. Like there is sort of like a masculine counterpart to Lolita called Oji. Basically it's Lolita but with pants and vests. And I think the main reason I'm not that drawn to it is because I love the prints on the dresses, and you don't see that same level of like intricacy and artwork on most OG pieces. I will say when I'm dressing in other alternative styles, I think the main thing that makes an outfit masculine is pants and like wearing higher collars, and those are things that I do because I don't wear any sort of V, anything that implies that I have a chest, and I kind of like toe that line in between masculine and feminine in a lot of other styles. So yeah, I think it just depends on what the expressiveness is within a style, and what matters more to me is kind of that expression, and I'm kind of indifferent to whether it's a masculine or feminine manifestation. From that, you can probably guess why this third coordinate that I have documented is actually a little different. It's almost a different take on that first one, but because I hated the bib in the sort of like way that it shaped and called attention to my chest, I actually tried putting my blouse outside of the jumper skirt to almost just wear it as if it was just a skirt and a blouse, and I actually love this so much more, but I thought that it wasn't quite a classy enough look for that to be a legitimate way for me to wear it, which is why I am actually trying to sell that dress right now. But I liked this coordinate so much more than that first one I showed you, and I think a big part of it is because I was a lot more comfortable with how the top looked and how my chest was not as drawing attention to itself in a weird look at me kind of way. I do still have that hat on. I do like that hat with that dress with a sort of like brown colorway look, and I also like that I have covered up more of my legs in this one. I think you can see the trend that I like the conservativeness. Finally, the last couple coordinates I want to show you, which is the one right here, as well as what I'm wearing today, are more complete. So I would say at this point, I have finally towed myself out of my Ida phase, and I feel so put together. I just love putting these outfits together. Like, I will come home from work when I've worked an opening shift and I'm home at like 2 p.m. and put on Lolita just to sit on the couch because I just love putting these outfits together. I love, like, just the potential, the vast amount of ways that you can wear these pieces, and just like how putting all of those aspects together adds to that feeling of like art and like the outfit being a work of art rather than just clothing. So this one is a dress I recently got that I think is absolutely a work of art because it is this beautiful stained glass print. It's very churchy, which is a little controversial because I am agnostic. I don't go to church. I went to church for a little while when I was younger. My mom is still somewhat religious. My dad is not at all religious, but I love the imagery and I love that, like, yeah, the art of it and how it evokes a lot of thoughts and it can evoke a lot of emotion. And for me, this is more of like a solemn type of piece, or like somber and like serious, but also like beautiful. I coordinated it with white on the blouse and the wrist cuffs and then the socks, but then I added in some red because there is a good amount of red in the print on the shoes and this flower that I added on. And on my head I have just the little few flowers that are sort of the ashy grayish blue of the main part of the dress. This dress actually came with I got it with a bonnet, but I put this on like right after it arrived and the bonnet was like weirdly bent and it wouldn't stand up right. So I would have put on the bonnet, but the bonnet came with those flowers, so I just threw the flowers on. And yeah, I love how complete this outfit is. And that's how I also feel today. So today I have these bows, which just arrived yesterday. I finally got some gray headpieces to match this gray dress. And then I am also wearing gray socks and black shoes to match my black blouse. And I do have a black choker on, and then I have this ring, which is sort of silver and black. But then I have purple bracelets on, mostly because I didn't really know what bracelets to throw on, and I thought these were subtle enough that it worked. I thought about throwing on purple makeup to make it tie in a little bit more, but then I decided makeup is way too much work. So this is like my favorite dress. It's the Chronos Utopia by Angelic Pretty. I did actually do an unboxing and try on reaction thing with this dress and a whole lot of other ones, but I think that's going up after this, so you might get a better look at the dress itself in that video, but I am going to go take some full body shots. Yeah, at this point, I do feel like I have spent more money than I should have getting into this fashion, but now I feel like I have enough different pieces to put together a lot of good, interesting outfits, and I'm not so tempted to continue making purchases. And the main purchases I'm tempted with are smaller for like the accessories realm. Like, I got these bows with a couple other hair accessories, so I'm hoping to decrease my spending and increase my experimentation with actually putting together coordinates, which is super exciting, and I'm going to continue documenting my outfits. But now that I feel like I am stepping out of my Ida phase, I am going to be finally showing these outfits on my Instagram, which I can't wait for people that are following me already to be like, Kristen, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, I love fashion. Fashion is giving me life. I feel like all of my sort of projects that I have going on are revolving around fashion, and that's why all I want to make for videos is fashion. That doesn't mean that's all that's ever going to be on this channel. Again, I do want to keep doing some other commentary type stuff, maybe talking about like music and movies, because I do love those. But yeah, if you found this and you are part of the Lolita community, I would love to hear from you. I haven't actually joined any sort of community really. I did join a decent amount of the Facebook groups that exist, but then I haven't looked at them that much because going on Facebook is just a terrible experience most of the time. So I am also sort of holding back on reaching out to my more local community because I know that I'm very awkward and I'm even more awkward digitally. So I wouldn't want the first sort of meetup thing I go to be like a Zoom meetup, because I know I would just be very uncomfortable and I would feel a lot better kind of like getting to know people in person. So I'm kind of holding out until in-person meetups are a possibility before I join a comm. So maybe future videos will be about my journey into a community, since I am already clearly so obsessed with the fashion itself. If there's anything else you'd like me to share, I'd love to hear it. And I hope this video is interesting, and I hope other Lolitas who are not women can maybe empathize with me and my struggle, but also my love of this fashion. That is all. Thank you for watching. I hope you had fun, and I will see you next time.